and you're always doubting, those thoughts are there. But if you let those affect you, it will make you pull back the pressure on how much you're putting into your business. So just know that if you stay in the game long enough, you will become successful. The reason people don't become successful is they don't stay in the game long enough to give themselves the ability to learn the skill sets, to figure things out. I mean, you said something earlier, like, the more you're doing leases, the more you know, and you're adding more to it on and off. Like, so as business goes on, you're having more knowledge and more wisdom and more learning experiences, and you make less mistakes and you do more of what works and less of what doesn't.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins.
Today we have the privilege of having a conversation with actually one of the highest rated poker players in the world, and facing adversity, moving into insurance and wholesaling and real estate, into fix and flip, buy and hold, into notes, and then eventually into being a real estate agent and having one of the second fastest growing groups in the EXP organization last year. Now the founder of EXP Realty Wolfpack organization. Everybody, please welcome to the show, Connor Steinbrook. Connor, welcome to the show, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How's everybody doing?
Doing awesome, man. You got the wolf pack there behind you, the wonderful logo. The listeners can't see it, but it is all dialed in, man. You can tell you are experienced in this game, not only in the podcast game, but I'm excited to learn a little bit more about your real estate journey and entrepreneur journey as well, too. So, hey, let's dive right into this and give the listeners just a little bit of background about who Connor is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do it real quick in a nutshell, just because I know you want some value here on the call today. So I went off to college in 2003. I'm out of Dallas, Texas. I went to the University of Oklahoma. As a freshman in college, the online poker boom took off. So some of you guys remember when Chris Moneymaker won the World Series of Poker, and that led me into start playing online poker for pennies and dollars and tens of dollars and hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands. And I ended up being one of the top online poker players in the world for about 8 years. Then government regulation, if you guys remember, happened back on April 15, 2011. They shut down the websites. It was called Black Friday. I made a bunch of bad decisions as a young kid, and I gambled off all my money. I had to move back home with my parents, and it was a very dark time for me. For a couple of years, I was really lost, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was waiting for online poker to come back, and then it just was never going to come back the way it was. And I stumbled into personal education, self-growth. I came across Think and Go Rich and Napoleon Hill and his black and white recordings of 17 Principles of Success. And I started reading books, and I was playing live poker still at the time. I was playing pretty high stakes, and I was playing a lot of high net worth individuals. And I started figuring out it was a lot easier to make money in business than it is in poker, and that they all had some type of ownership or some type of duplication system. They either ran big teams, they had a large amount of employees, they owned a big amount of rental properties, apartments, mobile home parks, RV parks, or something like that. So I wanted to, so I started looking into residual income and passive income really aggressively. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, so I decided I wanted to go into the investing space. At the same time, I got my insurance license. So I started out wholesaling houses, and I was going into insurance space at the same time. And so in the insurance world, I joined WFG, which is where Ed Milet's from. I started building a little team over there, and I was wholesaling over here, and I got myself into some debt issues. And what happened was I ran out of money, but I had time. And I taught myself internet marketing and social media by watching YouTube videos for free. And I was teaching myself how to build WordPress websites here in Dallas. I was working minimum wage jobs, trying to keep my bills paid. And I built the number one ranking websites here in North Texas and started generating a lot of leads inbound. And I built a decent sized investment company here in North Texas. We started wholesaling first and went into flipping properties. Then we started buying rentals. Then I transitioned into the creative financing space, creating and selling notes, holding partial notes, land deals, mobile homes, and things like that. I built my YouTube channel, Investor Army. Years ago when I was active on that. I'm actually probably going to be bringing it back, which is probably the first time I told anybody about that. But we're going to start posting on Investor Army at some point here soon. And that grew to one of the largest educational channels in the country. And then the pandemic happened. Long story to go. I stopped posting on there. But and then along the way, that channel took off, and I had a lot of people reaching out to me about a company called EXP Realty. And I kind of blew everybody off for 2 years. And finally, I decided to get my license to join the company. And over the past 6 years, we built an organization of almost 3,400 agents. We have agents in all 50 states, 16 countries. We sold almost 7,000 houses this year. And so I focus on the team building side. So last year I was the number 2 growth leader in the world at eXp Realty. And on the investment side, I'm still doing things. I'm buying apartments, investing apartments, single family flips, and still building the rental portfolio. I know that's a lot. I wanted to get it out so we could go into some of the questions you had about that, but that's a quick rundown of how I got here.
Yeah, that is a lot, man, and that is definitely the run through it. So in this path, and what I wanted to do is just glean as much value as possible from your experience in the investing side. I mean, there's so much in that story, in your story, that we could glean value from. But on the investment side, starting in that single family world, the fix and flip, and getting to buy and hold. And I noticed on the Investor Army channel that there's a lot of videos on there, about maybe some of that experience that you had. So I want to jump into some of that and say, what are some of the big takeaways when you're first starting in that single family world in the buy and hold perspective? What are some things that jump out to you that you would like to share if you would have only known this, if somebody would have shared it with you when you were new?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of limiting beliefs and limiting mindset issues when we're starting to build our businesses. And I think a lot of people think they need to have money to build a business, especially to control property and to get rental properties. They need to be bank financeable. They need to have good credit and all this type of stuff. It's not true, simply because I know my story and how I got here. So I got myself $100,000 in debt. I made all the mistakes when I had money. It was when I was in debt, I had no money, that I had to really focus on doing the right thing. And that's actually when I learned to start doing deals. So I didn't do deals until I had no money. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I didn't teach myself creative financing until a little bit later and understand owner financing and buying and selling with owner financing. And so I thought I had to wholesale houses, flip houses, get to where I had a couple good years of income, get back to where I was bank financeable, go back to the bank and go through this long process. But what I realized along the way is that that's just not the case. I can go directly to any homeowner in North America and I can offer to buy their house if they want to sell it to me on owner financing. So I realized I don't need credit. I don't need money. I need communication. I need the ability to sit down, talk with a convicted belief system on why this is the best option for this homeowner, show them with the math to back it up, and be able to explain this to them and then go do it over and over and over. So you need your work ethic and a skill set and knowledge to understand creative financing and making seller financing offers to the homeowner. But if you guys are waiting to try to build your rental portfolio because you think you need to be financeable, you can go straight to the homeowner and you can make those offers. And that's how I kind of started building my portfolio. Now, some of those you can keep. Now, if you can't keep it, you can buy a house on owner financing and turn around and sell it on owner financing. You can buy a house on owner financing, leave that debt in place and flip the house. There's lots of different things you can do with it. But I hope you guys understand that the biggest lender out there in the world is not the bank. It's our communities with the homeowners living in it. They can sell their house to you and be a private bank to you.
That's awesome. And in that process too, did you get into subject to scenarios kind of?
I mean, not so much at the time when I was doing a lot. I mean, I understand it very well. One of my close mentors probably does as many sub-2 deals here in DFW as anybody. I understand the transaction really, really well. I never really had to do it at the time. It wasn't kind of like, if you think of like a corn crop or something like that, there's a seasoning requirement. There has to be the right time for the crop to. Our market wasn't when I was really investing heavily and not focusing on EXP, that it didn't really have a lot of sub-2 deals into it. There's a lot of equity in the market.
Yeah.
I think
there's ownership of the properties probably.
Yeah. So it's really rare when you've got a lot of retail buyers and you have huge equity positions and the market's going up. A sub-2 transaction is usually much easier able to be negotiated when there's low equity and then there's a time crunch and they can't sell retail to a retail buyer or something like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I mean, I could answer questions about it. I'm very, some of my friends are some of the top investors in DFW that have done thousands of sub-2 deals. But
yeah, no, that's perfect. When you were direct to in these scenarios and you started generating inbound leads, these were direct to seller inbound leads. This was via SEO? Was it PPC at that time? What was bringing you those closable deals?
Yeah. So a lot of the inbound internet leads were coming from my websites through SEO. And so I joined, some of you guys are probably familiar with Investor Carrot with Trevor Mock. I was at the very beginning when Trevor launched Investor Carrot. This was way back in the day, like over a decade ago. Mm-hmm. And so I signed up and I was getting those templated websites. And I was going to them. They had little mastermind calls that they were running. And since their company hadn't taken off yet, there's only, maybe 3, 5, 7 people on these calls each week. And it was Adrian, Nez, and Trevor alternating running those calls. And that's where I really, really learned how to understand SEO and internet optimization. And this is also how I got into YouTube, because I've been watching YouTube as an education tool. But when Adrian was teaching me that if I start a YouTube channel, I link the YouTube channels to my websites, that backlink and that linking of that is going to drive the algorithm and it's going to push those up. So I started building websites for We Buy Houses Dallas, Sell My House Fast Dallas, some of the biggest keywords. And there's 40 to 50 major cities in my market. And I organically, and I actually did this myself because I didn't have anybody, I couldn't pay. I typed all the city pages, all original content, and I basically built these websites out. I had no money, so I was watching them move up from pages 8 to 7 to 6. And I was like, if I can just get this to page 1, which is where you're going to get the most eyes and the most traffic, that this is going to fix my business. Somebody will generate a bunch of leads. But that's where I really started learning SEO, building WordPress websites, optimization. And I did this through Investor Carrot and also just watching a bunch of YouTube videos. But that's where I started generating a lot of those leads.
Nice. And as you started acquiring these properties to hold, it sounds like they were probably on the seller finance side too, these properties that you were actually holding for long term, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it. Once you kind of control it, it's really up to you. So it's always a battle of, your biggest goal is to acquire and build your equity and your cash flow. So there's 3 income streams of business: time trader, active income, which is flipping houses, wholesaling. It's where you can create income when your income, or when you stop putting time into it, your income goes away. But then you have equity models and residual income models, where equity models can expand, the market can go up, and you can see that market grow without you putting time into it. And then we all understand the power of passive income. Now, the problem is you can't just control passive income without money. You have to actually have money to control passive income. You mean control the asset. Also, if a tenant moves out or whatever you're doing. So the goal for you guys should be focus aggressively on your active income. Try to make as much money as you can, trading your time for money, pay your taxes, live very conservatively, and then start using your disposable income to move it over into controlling assets and equity positions, and also building a recurring income stream. But that's what I'd be focusing on. So in the beginning of my career, I was focusing only on active income, wholesaling and flipping. Then I got some money where I could control assets, and I started keeping rentals. And then I was able to start controlling notes and things like that, and building passive income. So you need to decide where you're at in your business, how many dollars and how much time and money do you have today versus tomorrow? Meaning, does it make sense to finance out and keep this property as a long-term buy and hold, or does it make sense to flip this house and sell it and take a $30K check and have $30,000 to run my business for the next few months with marketing and things like that? So each and every one of you is going to be a little bit different. You need to look at where you're at on how much working capital you have to run your business, because you still need to run your business, make sure you're generating leads and create new deals. And then how many do you need to put out? How many do you need to exit as far as the leads that come into office that are active income, meaning flip and wholesale, creating transactional money? And then how many of those can you keep long-term, meaning keep as a rental property or put onto a note and carry that note long-term? And so It's going to be individually need to be looked at by each of you guys, but it's always a battle of active to passive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tell everybody too, it hurts my feelings to sell real estate. And in those times when I'm through the years, the ebb and flow of business for us has always been the roller coaster ride, as I'm sure it is for a lot of people. And those times when you need capital, you need money, and it's like, okay, then here comes these assets that you do control up on the chopping block. And for me, it's always like, no, I don't want to sell them.
Yeah. So you're actually doing the right thing. So one of the biggest mistakes a lot of investors that have been around will tell you is they should have kept more of their properties. So I started out wholesaling. I probably wholesaled close to 100 houses in a pretty short window of time. My average wholesale deal was probably like 10K, maybe, give or take. So maybe like 5 here, 13 there, but averaging out probably like 8, 10, or 12. So let's just say 10. So that's like $1 million. So that's, people would be like, that's pretty good. This is $1 million. But all those houses, if I had figured out how to control them back in 2014 and 2015, they all went from 150 to 250, or 175 to 290, or right, 200 to 310. So almost every one of those houses in my market has had a 6-figure appreciation for the most part when you really look at back, when I go back and look at it. So if I had figured out how to control those houses over time, what would that be? 100 houses by $100,000 in appreciation. That's $10 million, right? Yeah, 10 million. Yeah, it sounds crazy, right? So instead of $1 million versus 10 million, and that's not the only part, because I would have been cash flowing during that window of time. So I would also had extra income coming in from the cash flow. Yep. So you want to try to hold everything you can, but the problem is you can't hold everything without working capital. That's why you have to keep flipping, wholesaling, trading your time to 9 to 5 job, something on the side that creates income coming in over here that you can store over here for the long-term strategy. But if you can, try to keep everything you can. Now, the ones you want to keep the best ones, sell off the problem children, keep the ones that are structurally sound, that are in good funnel zones, meaning by hospitals, elementary schools, and that type of stuff. And then the ones that are probably not structurally sound, that are a little bit older and stuff like that, those are the ones that you can just sell to another investor that may not be able to generate enough leads, and they'd be happy to have that property. Not that it's a bad property, but since you need to figure out how many you can control yourself and cherry pick the best ones. So you take the best properties and kind of hoard them over here. And then, and I say best, I'm not meaning like the other ones are bad. They're normal properties, but you can only have so many good properties come into the office that meet every kind of buying criteria you're personally looking at for the area, price points, and all that type of stuff.
I see a video that you have. It was a while ago you posted it, but it says 9 types of houses to never buy. Do you remember that? What jumped into your mind on the 9 types of houses never to buy?
I do remember that video. It somehow became my biggest video.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of types of houses you don't want to buy. You want to buy houses that have the right type of layout. So as our population gets older, a lot of buyers want to have their main bedroom, the master bedroom downstairs. You don't want to have the master bedroom upstairs. Not too big a deal, but you will cut out part of your market share. A lot of times, if you have bad layouts in a house where, let's say, like you're going to have a whole family living there and there's only one bathroom and everybody has to go through that hall and through that one bedroom to get to that one bathroom, this is going to deter a lot of buyers. Let's say like a 1-1. I think I put in that video, like a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. These are very limited. A little small house. Those are limited. You want to be very cognizant of the environment around the property, meaning what does it back up to and what does it surround? So you want to buy properties that back up to value adds, golf courses, waterfront property, anything like that. You don't want to be backing up to liquor stores, strip clubs, bad areas and things like that. But so there's a lot of types of houses to never buy. Ones that are at the bottom of a hill, those can be big issues because you're going to have all the weight of the earth pulling down. And if you don't have a retaining wall on that property, it can be a massive expense for you guys. And you're always going to have flooding issues because water's going to come down the hill. It's going to get into the house, and you're always going to have cracks because it's always moving. And it can be kind of a crazy, a nightmare. But yeah, those are a couple, I think were in that video. I can't remember all of them because it was like 6 years ago, but I think
I feel like there's always something. It's like when you first write a lease and you pass it on to your tenants, and then the next tenant comes, and then the next tenant next year, and it's like all of a sudden your lease just continues to get longer and longer and longer. And just like when your buying window too, you really you learning those little things to kind of nurture that list and keep it, trying to avoid as much headache as possible. Hey, Connor, tell us a little bit about this EXP. We kind of blew right through that on the 3,400 agents and the fastest net growth.
Second fastest last year, yeah.
Fastest. Wow. I mean, that's massive. And I just want to touch on this just a little bit. So for EXP is kind of got this cool model. And for me, on a nationwide kind of real estate acquisition perspective, it allowed me to join in different states. I had different broker in charge. So that was kind of cool. And that whole virtual approach was really cool as well too. Tell us a little bit about the benefits that you see as an investor working with EXP.
I mean, there's a lot of benefits. So, like we just mentioned, there's 3 ways to create income in business: active, equity, and residual income. Now, when you look at a traditional brokerage model, usually an agent just has active income, meaning they can sell a house and get paid once, and that's it. So when Glenn Sanford created EXP, he understood entrepreneurship and wealth creation, and he wanted to create a model that could create wealth for agents. And that's exactly what's happened. So we have stock awards, and we also have a revenue sharing model, a team building model that's a 7-level override growth model where the company shares half the revenue to us to grow the company. It's like a network marketing override model. So active income through production, equity model through the stock awards. So we have equity ownership opportunities, and we have a recurring income stream opportunity to grow the revenue share model. So when I looked at my business before, if I was to get a license and I drew a T-chart, investors on one side, investing side on one side, retail side on the other, I had all three ways of creating business income and expanding my net worth on my investment side. Active income through wholesaling and flipping houses, equity from ownership of real estate, meaning the property can go up through appreciation, or also it's building equity through principal pay down through the tenant, and then the cash flow for the residual income. Then if I was to get licensed, it's just like active income. Now, I didn't want to be I'd done enough active income. I was at the point where I was trying to build my recurring income stream. Now, when I realized EXP had the power of the revenue share model, and also that it was one in which you could build a very large income, 5, 6, multiple 6, even 7 figures or more annually, that's what really attracted me to it. Also, at the same time, I've been running mostly lead generation strategies and exit strategies that I need equity in for my investment business. So if you wholesale a house or flip it or finance out of it to keep it, you kind of need that equity position, right? Now there's strategies like sub 2 you can do with low equity and wraps and things like that. But if you have equity, or if you don't have equity, a lot of deals you can't do. And so what was happening was I was generating a lot of leads, and I'd get a lead for like 400,000, and someone would be like, well, I want 400,000 for my $400,000 house. And I would literally crumble it up in a piece of paper and like throw it in the trash can. Not really. I'm just trying to be dramatic here. I'd actually just cross it off my list, but I'm giving you guys a point. I'm throwing the leads in the trash can. It's kind of the point. That's a 12K check, right? So I didn't want to work those leads, but when I realized I could do referrals, that was a big deal. So I was like, well, I can do a referral. So I can push off all these leads now that I capitalize on this. So this is a sunk cost. A lost cost that I was having. And then also I can build the revenue share model. So that's really why I came over for the revenue share model. Now, the reason why the revenue share model is powerful is because it grows exponential, not linear. If you build a rental portfolio, let's say like a traditional burst strategy, I have to finance or find the deal, prospecting, lead generation. Then I have to finance the deal. So I have to raise the money. Then I have to go to the construction side of the business, fix the house up. Then I have to put a tenant in there. And then I have to go back and refi my money out. Now, if I want to double my cash flow, let's say I'm making $500 a month, I have to do that same process again. Now, when you look at EXP, if I sponsor an agent that caps, we create a cash flow coming in that's pretty close to what a rental property creates for a year. Now, the difference between a rental property and a person that wants to grow their business and has big goals is that person will go out there and start attracting agents. So it's like a house that will go buy a house, and not being insensitive to calling a person a house, just comparing so you guys can see it. So a house will never grow legs and go buy houses for you, but partners want to grow their team. And when you have an override model in a 7-tier structure, you have businesses growing inside your business. So there's an exponential leverage to it. And then the last thing was I just was growing my investor army channel, and that was getting a little bigger. At the time, it was a couple tens of thousands of followers. And this is why I think a lot of you guys that are on social media could use EXP's platform to really benefit yourself, because let's say you had 10,000 followers or 100,000 followers. How many of those are directly in your market, meaning the market that you're doing business in with your transactional business? Very few. So if you had 10,000 people following you, you may only have a few hundred, at best 1,000 of those people local to you. I'd probably say way less than 1,000. Where's the rest of those agents or potential clients? They're all around the planet. They're in different countries, different states. They're watching you from around the world. So some of you guys watching this podcast, you guys are all not going to be in the exact same city. You're going to be all around. And what that means is with EXP, we're in all 50 states and 24 countries. You can now tap into the leverage of the social media following that you've invested time and money to build. And so I was able to start attracting partners all around the world. In fact, I sponsored the number one agent personally in the world. He's from Canada. Some of you guys know Mike Sherrard. Mike wasn't even in the same country as I was, but because of social media and leverage and the platform that EXP has, you can build a global business. And then I like the idea of not having to be a broker and carry the liability and actually run the business. I didn't want to have to deal with accounting. So for example, this year I sold almost 7,000 houses. I've not seen a piece of paperwork. I've not seen a contract. I've not reviewed anything. I carried zero liability. I have no risk. And at the end of the year, I'm going to get a 1099 and I have no CPA bill. EXP just gives me a one-time document. I pay $85 a month. They're going to process this year well over 10,000 houses of transactions for us. I have no CPA bill. I pay $85 a month. So sometimes people get caught on the comp plan and not the fundamentals of the business leverage that the model gives us, meaning I have no back-end management system. I have no back-end fulfillment. Like it's all handled by the company. All we get to do is the fun stuff, or have to do is attract cool partners to work with, sell houses, and grow the team. All the other stuff that we hate in business, all the accounting, the late night data entry, the potential slipping up and getting sued and all that type of stuff, they carry that for us. That's one. So these are all some of the reasons that all came together. And I was like, all right, I got to do this. Yeah. And then once I made the decision to do it, this is what you guys need to understand. It's not EXP or any whatever you're doing, once you make that decision, you don't deviate it. You put your foot down and you never let off. You stay consistent. When adversity comes up, you stay persistent, push through it, and you be patient, because business is a consistency test and a patience test and a persistency test all at once. But you got to be aggressively patient, meaning work hard every day, but be patient to let it happen over time. Because along the way, I kept thinking this is never going to work. It's going to take too long. And you're always doubting those thoughts are there. But if you let those affect you, it will make you pull back the pressure on how much you're putting into your business. So just know that if you stay in the game long enough, you will become successful. The reason people don't become successful is they don't stay in the game long enough to give themselves the ability to learn the skill sets, to figure things out. I mean, you said something earlier, like, the more you're doing leases, the more you know, and you're adding more to it on and off. Like, so as business goes on, you're having more knowledge and more wisdom and more learning experiences, and you make less mistakes and you do more of what works and less of what doesn't, and your income's going to go up. But I think a lot of people quit too soon. Yeah. So if you guys are in like your first 2 or 3 years, don't beat yourself up. I didn't turn a profit till like my 4th year in my business. So don't feel bad, and not flexing here, but now I make, quite a bit. I do well. So I'm just trying to encourage you guys that if you're struggling early in your business, that's not a reflection of what can happen in the later days of your business.
Yeah. The other thing I've personally experienced through XP was how fast that commission check is. And the reason why you don't have liability in these is because that transaction process is so dialed in the documents that need to go to get loaded to the platform, the portal. And that way the agent gets that commission check next day, you know what I mean, in most cases. And that's a huge separator too, going with that. Hey man, if you could go back, say 10 years, and that puts us right around 2014, right? Yeah. If you go back 10 years, all this knowledge experience that you have now, set aside somebody maybe on that similar path as you, Connor, and with the idea of, hey, I know what I want in life. I feel like I know what I want. I have these goals, have these values. What would you tell that person with the knowledge that you have now?
Yeah, well, I'd sit down with them and I'd say, tell me all your biggest goals and dreams and everything that you want to have in the world, and future pace them and get them to see it. And then I'm going to look them dead in the eye and say, now you're not the person that can have that right now. You could never have that as who you are currently today. But the good thing for you is you can be someone tomorrow. And then I'd explain how my path went, whereas when I was struggling in debt, I was financially bankrupt, spiritually bankrupt, emotionally bankrupt. I had no skill sets. I wasn't the person that could hold that success. For example, let's say you were in great shape at one point in your life and you could lift a lot of weight, but you're in bad shape at one point in your life that you couldn't lift that weight. And I helped them understand that you're going to the gym trying to lift a weight that you can't. Now you could tomorrow if you consistently add skill sets. And I helped them understand personal growth and personal excellence and understanding how to improve yourself in every area of your life: health, wealth, your faith goals, relationship goals, community goals, and all that. And then I would explain to them, the order of skill sets to go through. So the most valuable skill set that you guys should be focusing on is your ability to communicate and influence. So everything's about all the influence. I'm influencing you guys right now. When you guys go talk to your friends and partners and your kids, everybody's always influencing someone. When there's a conversation, it's a battle of influence every single time. And so one of the biggest mistakes that I had that got me into debt was I had the skill set prioritization in the wrong order. I started spending a bunch of money marketing, and I was getting the phone to ring, but I didn't know how to take that phone to a contract. And I was dropping the ball, and I was paying all this money for the phone to ring, and I wasn't getting any business out of it. And so what I realized later is I should be understanding how to go through a conversation with the seller. And so what I started doing when I was running a consulting company for a little bit, as agents came in, or agents as investors came potential to work with me, I made them call 100 for sale by owners. That was the activity. Now you're trying to get the deal. If you don't, it doesn't matter. If you called 100, you completed the activity. But what you're trying to do is get a familiarity, how a seller is going to talk to you, the questions they're going to ask, the flow of how the call goes, when do you ask for, appointments and all this type of stuff. So you need to have, before you start spending a bunch of money marketing, which I know you guys want deals, get some practice on the phone, talking to these sellers. And so you understand how it is, because once that phone rings, you're paying for it. And depending on how much money you have, it could actually set you back and frustrate you. And also dropping the ball over and over is going to make it difficult for you to say, this is going to work. Now, also, as you go through, into the future of business. Everything's negotiations. Everything's trying to get the sale. How do you get business over another person? You communicate better that you're about a better value for that person to work with you over that other person. How do you get someone to join you and work with you, like at EXP over a different group? Your ability to communicate the value proposition. So Mike, some of you guys know Mike talked to like 6 or 7 alpha agents before he talked to me. So why did Mike join an investor agent out of Texas behind all these alpha agents like Kyle Whistle and all these people he talked to? I was able to convey a message in a different opportunity, in a different angle of how I was using the same vehicle differently than what they were. So communication is the center part of all income creation. And most people don't even think about it. And the second thing is I'd urge you to focus on how does your brain work? How does your conscious, unconscious mind and body work together? And how does manifestation happen? And so I'd be focusing on that. And then I would be focusing on, how to build self-esteem and how to build a strong self-image, because when things get tough in business, you won't push through unless you believe in yourself. So we build the person first, and they'll go acquire the skill sets. Most people just try to acquire the skill sets without a built person first, and then they don't understand why it's not working. If you work on yourself, everything else will work around you. It's kind of what I try to help people understand.
Yeah, that's awesome. It reminds me of an old, I can't remember what book it came from, Connor, but it was quickly said a story where there was a picture of a guy on one page and then the world on the other. And as you tore that apart and went to put it back together, the world was too difficult to put back together. But the kid who was putting this puzzle back together actually looked on the bottom side and noticed that the man was there. And he flipped it over and he put the man together, flipped it back over. And when the kid talked to his dad, he's like, "How did you do that so fast?" Right? And he's like, "Well, it's easy. You put the man together and the world followed right behind it." So if you work on yourself first, everything else around you has a tendency to follow right along, right?
I like that. Yeah, I've not read that, but I like it. And it is the truth. And so I think the main thing is you need to work on your thinking and your thoughts. Your thoughts control your decisions, and your decisions control your future. And also the way that you allow your thoughts to be accepted or rejected in your mind is going to directly impact your quality of life. So our thoughts impact how we feel. And so this is what I didn't realize early on. I was a very negative person. I was always angry, and it was my fault. I was thinking incorrectly. So if I called you right now and said your best friend died in a car wreck, what is your physical body going to do? Probably going to cry, probably going to roll on the ground. You're going to melt down, right? Someone that you loved died. Now, what if I call you back and said bad April Fool's joke? They're fine. They're sitting right here. They're laughing. Now, what that means is you didn't know that at that time. Your thought was, I just lost a loved one. So the thought came first. The belief or the attaching of the belief to the thought that it was real caused your physical body to change. So think about that. You're crying now because of a belief of a thought that's not even real. This is why belief is so important, because whatever we believe, we're going to act on. We feel what our thoughts are. So if you guys are feeling bad and anxious and stressed and having this type of stuff, you need to guard the garden, guard your thoughts, because your thoughts are like a pitchfork. You hit the pitchfork and it vibrates on a frequency. Every thought that you think sends a frequency through your body, and you feel that. So if you're thinking positive thoughts, you're going to feel positive. You're going to feel good. You're going to feel hopeful. And if you're thinking negative thoughts, you're always going to feel like everything's against you. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel sick. But our thoughts control the way our body feels and the way our body moves. So first we have it in the mind intellectually, what we want. Then we have it emotionally in the body and how we feel it. And then we can physically have a result. Meaning, if we're in a bad emotional pattern, do you think we're going to have more fights with friends and more drop deals versus a positive emotional pattern? So the way that we feel and the way that we act directly impacts our results in the future. And I think in the beginning of my career, I was so fixated on, I need to learn how to optimize video. I need to learn how to send a postcard out. And I was so concerned on what I put on a bandit sign and stuff like that, instead of saying, maybe if I control my thoughts and control my day and control my time and control my vision, maybe I'll have a better outcome. And so I would really read books like Think and Grow Rich. I'd study the mentors that I followed a lot when I got going were Bob Proctor, Les Brown, Earl Nightingale, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn. These are all people that I listened to all their podcasts and read all their books. I'd read a book called The Power of the Subconscious, Power of Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy, I think is a good one. It's been a long time since I read it. But I'd really focus on communication, emotional intelligence, and how your brain actually works in your conscious, unconscious thoughts. And don't worry about the other stuff. All that stuff will come later.
Awesome. Put the person together. The world will follow. Talking about following in this world, Connor, how can How can the listeners get in touch with you? How can they follow you? Like, what's the best place to search you out?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be grateful if you guys you find me on Instagram, go over there and check me out, follow me there. And then I have a new website that's out there. It's just my name, connorsteinbrook.com. I'm going to be posting some stuff on there. It should be up probably by the time you see this and going. But those are the two best places. I haven't been too active on Investor Army. I have a plan to start posting on it. I'm not going to say when, but we will probably get back going on at some point because I've had people ask me. And then I'm also posting, I have a different YouTube channel that's more on overall entrepreneurship and also a little bit of team building and stuff like that, just under my personal name. So I have a Connor Steinbrook YouTube channel. I actually just started posting again on that one. And then Investor Army is my investment channel. And there's still, I think, like over 300 videos on there to help you guys with single family investing.
And that your personal is actually shown as a featured on the Investor Army YouTube channel. And your last name is Steinbrook. So it's just Connor_Steinbrook is the Instagram. They can follow you there. They can hit you up at that .com. Man, I really appreciate your time today, Connor.
Yeah, man, I have fun, and thanks for having me on here. Hopefully you guys I inspired you and you learned something there. But yeah, I mean, if I can ever help, just send me a message on IG and I'd go check out a bunch of those videos and not just watch my channel, but as many as you can. And this is the last thing I'll leave you with. Just try to use the keywords. Say you're in real estate investing channels, find a bunch of different people, start watching their channels. And if you find a few good ones, what I used to do is I'd go to the beginning of their channel. I'd sort it by oldest to newest, because a lot of times people put their best content as their channel starts because they're trying to get it off the ground. So it's kind of flip. And I would just watch all their videos in a row, and I'd wipe out that channel and catch it up to like the live time where they're posting like once a week, and I'd stay current with it. So just find as many different people in the space that you're trying to learn the education that you're trying to acquire. And as you start to listen to different people, they're experts on what they're talking about, you're going to hear cross commonalities where you may hear me say same thing that Brett says on something and that John and Susan and other channels say. And then it's going to give you a lot more confidence that sound information and good knowledge that you can take a risk, going and trying to put money behind it and time behind it and stuff like that. But I would just say aggressively consume information the most you can, constantly work on yourself, and the rest will take care of itself.
Awesome. And when I'm in DFW, we're going to do an event down there here pretty soon.
Yeah.
What do you say we go fishing, huh?
That's what I'm talking about. If you want to go fishing, just hit me up. Yeah, we'll
That's
go.
Awesome.
Drive up to I'm going out tonight. I got a tournament tomorrow, actually.
That's awesome, man.
That's why I'm sunburned, so you can see. So I live on the lake. But yeah, if you want to come to Lake Texoma, I live right here, so I go out. Most nights of the week, it takes me like 10 minutes to get to lake.
That sounds great, man. That sounds great. Well, thank you again, and to the listeners here today. So much information here, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. If you have any interest in that, becoming a licensed real estate agent, EXP is that virtual kind of approach, and it meets so many requirements for so many investors, so many people. You want to jump onto it, go ahead and reach out to Connor. And man, there's so much more that we didn't even touch here on today. So thank you for your time, and most importantly, thank you for your attention. If you have any questions for us, info@Physician Wealth System, shoot me an email. Let me know what you would like to have on the show, or another guest. Maybe you want to be on the show. Come on, let's talk. Maybe then we can go fishing. Until next time, this is the Real Estate Mogul MD.